Good morning and good vach to everybody here in Avos Shalom, everybody in your Torah, anytime, and YouTube. We are in the Amud Yomi, Bava Metzia, Hey Test Amud Beis. We are in the Toshma Poyalin. Poyalin. Where are we learning? What are we learning now? And where are we holding? We're learning about the halachas of a poyel, that is a worker. The worker is allowed to eat from the fruit of the field or the vineyard or wherever he's working. While he's picking the fruit, he's allowed to pick from the tree, right, and eat with certain limitations. One question we have is, it says in the Torah, anovim, and we learn anovim v'lo dover acher, meaning a person who works, let's say, in a vineyard is allowed to eat the grapes. As he's working, don't forget the bracha, allowed to eat the grapes. He doesn't have to take meiser, for sure not, because it's not yet even gemar melacha, let alone keva. It's very, offhanded. And the person's not allowed to add the, let's say, something else to the grapes. Lo yochel anovim v'dover acher. I personally like grapes with the yellow cheese. Yes, so I cannot, if I work in someone's field, I'm not allowed to add a small piece of yellow cheese to each and every grape, and not even one. That's gzela, that's theft. Why? It's going to like it too much. You're allowed to have just the grapes, and eventually the person will probably, that's my own svara, the person would, can't look, won't be able to look at grapes anymore, right? The lamaisa is allowed to have the grapes because it's grapes and grapes only. If you have grapes and chocolate, oh, that would be nice. Dip each grape in chocolate. That's cool. That you're not allowed to do. Yeah, you don't like it, no problem. Yeah, al tam v'reach. Okay. However, the Gemara has a question about what if a person can be mehadhev? Is a person allowed to toast? Let's say these are grains. The same thing applies to grains. To eat raw grains is, but if you toast the grains, it's a question. Do we say that you're not allowed to do it just like you're not allowed to sweeten the grapes? You can't toast the what's the names? You can't toast the grains. But we say no, toasting is not adding a new thing. Toasting is the same thing in a different form. So maybe that's allowed. That's a question which we're still trying to resolve, according to Rashi. So let's see. Toshma, one thing I want to warn you, warning and disclaimer before we start. It's not a difficult Amud today, honestly not. I'm just not saying this just to be nice and not to deter you. The only thing is, the name of the game is, the trick is, you always have to have like two windows open in your mind, because there are two issues here that keep, mixing and separating all the time. One issue is mitzad poyel. Is the person allowed to eat the fruit vis-a-vis the balabais? Because if I eat, let's say, grapes with yellow cheese, grapes and chocolates, or grapes and whatever, it's gzela. If the Torah doesn't allow me as a pearl to eat it, I'm automatically a thief, right? That's one issue. The other issue is meiser. I told you that the pearl is allowed to eat as it goes along. It's true there's no issue of meiser, but sometimes there may be an issue of meiser, right? So just have two windows open already now. There is the issue of poel vis-a-vis balabais. It's a choshen mishpat, it's a monetary thing, ben adam lechavero. And we have Ben Adam Lamalkom, the issue of Meiser, which will eventually come up. Right now, we're talking about Ben Adam Lechavera, we talk about Choshen Mishpat. Okay? That's the issue right now. Toshma, Poyalim, show Oidrim Beteinim. Really, Oidrim Beteinim should be Oirin Beteinim, which means they're picking the Te'ena. As Rashi tells us many, many times, each and every fruit from the classical fruit in Hebrew, you have a different verb to describe picking. So a poel which is picking the te'enim, the figs, the goydrim betmorim means to pick the dates. Uboitzlim ba'anovim is to harvest the anovim, the grapes. Umoiskin, the zaysim, that is picking or harvesting the zaysim, the olives. Elu oichlim, they're allowed to eat. Why? Of course, they're picking. As you're picking the food, you're allowed to eat. What about meiser? Upturim, they're potter from meiser. Comes to meiser, they don't have to take meiser. Why? Shatoira ziksa lohem. What does that mean? This is to do with something you, Ellen, said a few days ago. The reason why a poil is allowed to eat, chofshi, is allowed to eat without taking meiser, that is because his achila is achilas arai, right? Yeah. In other words, he is not, even if the grapes would have been memurach, would have been in a box, in a pile, even that's not the case anyways, but even if it was, the poil still allowed to eat from it derech arai in a temporary way, without, setting in a fixed way. What's the chiddush? The chiddush is, we said already before, one of the 7 things that make achila into keva, into something set and fixed and permanent, and permanent, is mekach, which means if I have a bunch of grapes and I sold it to Tzvi, just came from America, wants to taste the fruit of Eretz Yisrael again, and I sold it to you, even if it wasn't Roya Pnei Abayis, even if it didn't reach the house yet, the mere fact that there was a sale, there was a purchase, makes it already kavua. Once it's kavua, set, that alone, the fact that it was a transaction made those grapes choshuv, they were sold. If it was sold, means something happened to those grapes. Yeah, it's equivalent to cooking them or other things. Yeah. Now, having said that, one could have thought, wait a second, maybe it's a business transaction. Why is the Poil eating those grapes? He wasn't stam allowed to eat it. He's allowed to eat it. Why? Because he's working. Oh, wait, maybe that's a deal. You work in my field, and in return, I give you the grapes. It's like a sale. Instead of paying me cash, you're paying me by working in my field. Maybe that would be an osir. That's the havamina. Maybe now you eating, you're like a koine, you're like a loikeach, you're like a buyer, and as such, you are not allowed to what? To eat them even arai, because it's not arai. It's already kavua because you bought them. That makes it kavua. Kamash malan. Now let's read again the line of the Gemara. Shatoyer zik salahem, which means it's not part of the business deal between the employer and the employee. The Torah is the one who came like a good uncle in the corner over there in the background. The Torah says, you know, the two people have a transaction regarding what? He gets paid how much per hour? 30 shekels per hour for picking. That's all. The Torah, that's his business dealing with the Baal Habais. The Torah came and said, Zik Salahem. The Torah gave a bonus to who? To the workers, saying, the Torah, I give an extra bonus of being allowed to eat the grapes. But it's not part of the business deal that he has with the Baal Habais. And that's why it's not called Mekach, and that's why it's not Kavua, and that's why it's allowed to eat the grapes. That's the idea. We had that before, just now it's more accentuated, and actually it sits very much in line with what you said then. Bepitam, there's another detail. Bepitam lo yochelu. Yep. They're not allowed to eat it, with the bread, right? Because eating the grapes with the bread, what's the problem? That's eating the grapes or the whatever with something else. Yeah, I can't take the grapes and mix it in my yogurt, in my morning yogurt, right? That's not allowed because that's an extra thing. Elam cannot loshus me balabais unless balabais allows them. Now that's not meiser. That's to do with what? To do with a poil. Yeah, you can't eat it as an extra with extra additions and sauces and gravy or whatever that is, or with bread, unless balabais allows you. And here comes the last line: "V'lo yispois b'melach v'yoichal." And also, they should not dip the grapes, or I don't know, grapes go so well with salt. Well, apparently, maybe. Or don't dip your fruit or whatever the grains in salt and eat them. Oh, so what do you see? Oh, you see that salt. If I salt something, I'm not allowed to. That's considered as eating the grapes plus something else, even though it's just salt, right? Oh, so what do you see? You see that toasting should be the same. In other words, the havamina is salt is not called another piece of food. Yeah, if you have salad, let me ask you a question. If you eat salad with the regular Israeli salad, tomatoes, cucumber, peppers, whatever, cut, and then you add some salt. And people ask you, what kind of salad are you eating? I'm eating vegetable salad. You're not saying eating vegetable salad and salt. You're going to say the tomato, cucumber. Salt is not, it's an ingredient for the recipe, but it's not a separate food. It's tofel. You don't make a broth on it. Yeah, you make shakol on the salt of you don't, right? Right. In other words, it's not separate item. So you see that still it's not allowed. You see that nevertheless, you're not allowed to have the grapes with salt. Same thing, you can't have grapes that's toasted. Maybe it's the same thing. Says the Gemara, no, not necessarily so. Melach vade ke'anovim v'dovar acher dami. No, salt is like something else. It's true that salt is not mamish separate item of food, but salt is another ingredient. Salt is another ingredient, and therefore it's like anovim in cheese. It's like anovim in bread. Mashenkin toasted anovim or toasted grains. No, maybe that's allowed. You didn't yet prove your point. You're trying to learn about the toasting. Toasting, you added zero, nothing. It's the very, very same thing in a different form. It's toasted. You take bread. Bread is much nicer than toast, right? You didn't add yellow cheese, right, at all, but it's different. We still have a question whether that's allowed or not allowed. Now comes the Gemara and asks the question, what one thing we saw for sure, and you have to remember all the time till the end of the page, very, very important, there are two brises in this page that contradict themselves. We just saw brisa number 1. What did the brisa say? Lo yispos b'melach, right? At the moment, what do we think? Lo yispos b'melach means don't add salt. Mitzad what? Because the balabais will be upset with you. You're stealing from balabais. Nothing to do with meiser. No meiser. Stam. You can't have your what? Your grapes with chocolate, with salt, with bread, with cheese. Don't have any addition. You can have it by itself as is, as it is. That's all. Fine, all very nice. That's the first brisa. Don't add salt. Yeah, good advice. High blood pressure. Don't add salt. Now, Frag the Gemara, is that so? We repeat the words of the brisa in order to create a question. Aren't you supposed to add salt and then eat? Is that so? Veraminu. We see another brisa. Raminu means a question from one brisa to the other. A soicher is a poel. A person who's soicher is a poel, he hired a worker. Le'ader u'lekashkesh tachas hazeisim. Yeah, what is that? A person hired someone. La'ado is to hoe, yeah, to hoe, to make holes a little bit. The kashkesh is to cover actually holes or cover the exposed roots, yeah, under the zeisim. Harizelo yoichal, of course. Why? Because it's not the time of the picking. He's not dealing with picking. He's dealing with something completely different. He's dealing with a much earlier stage of the roots, so he doesn't get to eat. Even if it happens to be that some other trees already have ready-made food, that's not his job. Only the people who are dealing with the picking, they can eat. But people who deal with the roots, not allowed to eat. Very nice. But if he hired that same guy in order to, what's livtzo? To cut the grapes. That is to cut the olives. That is to cut any other fruit. Rashi, by the way, says lelaket is not necessarily only from the tree, also means from the floor. Yeah, many times they fall on the floor, right? The fruit, and if he picks them up off the floor, that is also called, it's still considered as, No. Serial lelaket is to pick from the floor. No, that's not. Lelaket is less soft. No. And to pick from the floor is, what, by the way, a person who gathers is also allowed to it because it's before Meiser. So, by the way, it's also true. Anyways, a person who gathers the thing together, who piles them up and heaps them up, is also allowed to eat. Absolutely, because it's not yet Royal Meiser. So it's in between stage, still allowed. Lo mishanim. Areze oichel upotur. Yeah, he eats and he's potur. Okay, what do you mean he eats and he's potur? Again, he's allowed to eat. Why? Because he's picking, collecting. He's still allowed to eat mitzad balbas. What's potur? Open the other window, please. What's potur? Potur is from meiser. Yeah, he doesn't have to take meiser. Shatoyer zik salhen, as we said before, he's not considered as a, don't be shticky with me and tell me, he's really a loikeach. He's really a buyer. How did he buy the fruit? Through work instead of cash. No, for the work, he's getting paid the money from the balabais. At the end of the month, he gets, I don't know, 5,000 shekels, right? Or at the end of the day, I don't know, 200, whatever, at the end of the day. Puts me then, the Torah gave him a bonus. The Torah, it's like Lavzi, a government stipend, whoever works, whoever, that's a different story. So he's still not considered a lokeach. He's an arai. He eats arai, off the cuff like that. It's not called kavua because he's not a lokeach. Doesn't have to take meiser. Now we come to an interesting. The brisa now finishes off with an interesting case. Kotzatz. Don't get confused. Not kotzatz achas. Kotzatz here doesn't mean to cut. Kotzatz means, let's say the poil and the balabais. You can ask why, but the poil and balabais, they made an agreement, and the poil told balabais, "I want you to allow me to eat fruit that I pick off the tree." Yeah, they made between them made an agreement. Why making faces? No, sometimes it's good to make faces. Can ask a bit better. Yeah. In other words, why does he need that? The Torah allows him, right? I don't need him to, right? I don't need the balabais to agree to something the Torah forces him to do, right? Yeah. In other words, it's something that goes without saying anyways. The Torah is the one who tells him that he has to allow the poem. So Tosis is bothered by this question. It has two answers. Tosis says very nice. All of Tosis answers very nice. This one, the Tosis says, we're referring to the guy in the Reisha. The guy at the beginning of the story is a guy who hoes, the guy who deals with the roots. He covers the roots. He, I don't know, sprays the disinfectants over there, but he deals with the roots. But he knows that the other friends are having a lot of fun eating grapes, and he doesn't. So he said, I'm coming to a field, and I'm the professional number one root guy, and I only come to work on condition that you allow me to eat like them. Of course, it's a chiddush. Mina Torah, I'm not allowed to eat. I'm asking you as a condition, let's have another work condition that because you and I made an agreement that I should be able to eat, even though the Torah does not allow me to eat, because I'm not holding by the stage I'm allowed to eat, but that's a personal agreement between them. They sign a contract by 5 lawyers and 10 Torah Rabbonis. Yeah, and now Lamaisa, that's what he's. So obviously, he is, yes, considered to be like a buyer. Yeah, in other words, that's an agreement. I'm coming to work for you very hard and very well. In return, besides my salary, one of my working conditions against you, it's not the Torah who says, it's you and I who decided it. Therefore, I'm going to be like a koine, like a lokeach, and now the status is going to change because he's going to be chayiv meiser. Another answer is of the Rach, Rabbeinu Hananel, brought down in Tosfos. He says, let's say they made an agreement like that. They made an agreement, I'm only going to have 20 or 30 grapes. I'm limiting the amounts of grapes. So somebody works in the vineyard, you know, he can eat almost to no end until achilagasa, right? The guy really likes grapes, yeah, and he doesn't add yellow cheese, doesn't add bread, and he doesn't toast it, and again, can still eat a lot. So he said, listen, I want more quality, less quantity. In other words, I'll only have 20, 30 grapes. But on the other hand, yeah, I want to have the grapes the way I want. In other words, as we're going to see, I'm also going to be able to eat it with what? With salt or with chocolate. Yeah, he wants to have his own conditions. The kids they have their own condition, not exactly in line with the conditions of the Torah. It's Choshen Mishpat. Choshen Mishpat, you can do whatever you want. So now they have their own agreement, the Poil and the Balabais. We have our own little, agreement with between us, lav dafka in line with the Torah. So then what happens then? No. Achas yoichal. Although he has the status of a lokeach, because this guy is a lokeach. Why? He is working in order to get the fruit. So it's as if he bought the fruit. Instead of paying cash, he's paying by working. So if it's only one, he eats them one by one off the tree. Yeah, then he's allowed to eat. Shtaim lo yoichal. Oh, but he can't have two together, which means if he placed two grapes together on the plate, that's already called goyren, which means when I keep telling you that if the thing, I actually told you this before, yeah? If I sell, what did I tell you before? A bunch of grapes or a box of grapes to who? To somebody, and to you, to anybody. I sell the grapes just picked off the tree, off the vineyard, and you're a buyer, that's kavua, you're not allowed to eat. That's only if there was a situation called goyren. Goyren means a bunch of grapes. Sadly, the Brisa says 2 grapes already called the goyren. In other words, if there are two grapes in the box, 2 grapes on the plate, it's already called a group. They call it goyren. Goyren means like a group, like a bunch of grapes. 2, that's it. It's 1 too much. Once you have goyren, 1 condition. Condition 2, you are a buyer. You have the status of buyer. It says buyer, B-U-Y-E-R, on your forehead, because we know you're only allowed to eat that not because the Torah told you, because you made a barter agreement. Barter is like a buyer. I'll work my, shoulders for you, and in return, I will get the grapes. Oh, you're a buyer. A buyer is not allowed to eat something called goyren, which is a bunch of grapes. Bunch of grapes, I imagine, a whole bunch. The Torah will tell us later on, we'll see a pasuk in the Novi that says 2 grapes, that's already called a bunch. That's a goyren. Once you have a goyren, a bunch, and you are of the status of a kavua, because why? Because you are a lokeach, for example, and could be 6 other options. We're not discussing them now. You can't eat it, not even 1 gram, 1 ayora, 1 thing. Can't eat without meiser. 1 second, please. However, finishes off the brisa. Back to our favorite story. Now we think that we're talking not about meiser. You have to keep jumping, guys. Now we're back to the not the meiser, to the poel oichel box. The poel is allowed to add salt to where? To the grapes, whatever, to the grains, and eat them. And it's not considered to be a problem with balabais. Before we said that adding salt is like adding cheese, it's like adding bread, it's like adding yogurt, it's all new food item. Don't do that. Here we say, no problem. Just salt. Salt is just it's a tavlin, it's a condiment, it's flavor, nothing. So you're allowed to. The it's a stira. The Gemara is now trying to analyze the Bryce in order to see if it's a real stira. Thank you for patience. Ahaya. Ahaya means when we said at the very, very, very end of the Brisa, you can eat it with salt. Surface means to dip. You're allowed to dip it in salt. On which part of the Brisa does that go to? Like you say, which part of the Brisa do you pin that sentence, you can add salt. Ilema seifa. If you want to talk about the guy of the seifa, who's the guy of the seifa? The one who had an agreement. We have our own personal agreement with Balabais, and I'm allowed to eat whatever I want. Kevin the kotzatz, what's kotzatz? He made his own personal agreement. I'll work and I will get however many grapes I want, the way I want. He's allowed to eat whichever way he wants, right? If they made an agreement to his salt, he's allowed to have salt. Now you understand the rach. I'm only going to have 20 or 30 grapes, but I'll eat them whichever way I want. I'm not already bound by the laws of the Torah. The Torah says eat grapes as much as you want, no salt. I want different conditions. I want to tweak the conditions and eat only 30 grapes, but I want them with salt and with sushi and with puchi, with all the fancy things. No problem. So the Brisa doesn't have to tell me he's allowed to eat it with salt. It's his own condition, whichever way he wants. El alava reisha. Must be we spoke about the reisha. We spoke about the guy, the regular guy, the regular run-of-the-mill guy who's not very innovative, is not very, thinking. He eats like the Torah told him to think, and yet, even though he's limited by the Torah, he's a regular poil, limited by the Torah, allowed to eat grapes like the Torah told you, and yet he's allowed to have salt. But that's a question. In the first, we have two brises. One brisa says with salt, one without salt. Yeah, one for me, one for my wife. Yeah, for her it's healthy to have salt, for me it's not. Yeah, the first brisa is what? First brisa tells us what? No, don't add salt. Osir mitzad what? That's against the rules. You can't add something to the grapes. What's something? Salt. It's called something else. The second brisa says no problem. Salt. It's just flavor. It's not considered as a whole new item, and that's where it's okay to eat. It's a contradiction, and you've been very, very patient with your questions. Now, Oma Abaye loikashe says Abaye, it's nishka difficult. It's not a question. Says Abaye, first of all, let's diffuse everything. Nothing to do with Meiser. Excuse me. I also got confused. You guys should feel good. I'm not even erasing it from the recording. Says Abaye, it's not an issue of balabais. The salting, yes, salting, no. Yes to salt, not to salt, is not an issue of may I add salt to my grapes? Is it considered like adding bread or cheese to the grape? It's not the issue here. And that seems to be okay, by the way. The issue is Meiser. Let me introduce before Abaye talks. Basically, one of the 7 things that make a group of grapes, a group of anything, kavua, makes it, you're not allowed to eat in a kavua way, is salt. I told you, putting it in brine or in salt. There are 7 things that, or Shabbos. Can I have those 2 grapes on Shabbos? No. On Friday, I'm allowed to have the 2 grapes or even more, or 10 grapes from the thing, as long as I'm not a buyer. Shabbos came, I'm not allowed to, because Shabbos is a choshev a day. Every achil of Shabbos makes it kavua. Same thing, salting here has nothing to do with between you and the balabais. That could be okay mitzad you and the balabais. The issue is meiser. One place in the world we say that once you salt the bunch of grapes, it's considered as kavua, don't touch. You can't eat it even be'arai. In another place in the world, another geographical location, it's okay. And the melicha, the salting is not considered to make it kavua, make it permanent and set and important, and you can have as many as you want, as long as there's nothing else kavua. Where is the difference between meiser, melech yes or melech no? There's a difference between the land of Israel and anywhere outside the land of Israel, which means, let's continue, and you're in for a surprise. If you take the grapes and you want to take meiser, you actually don't want to take meiser, but you put them in salt, you dip them in salt, and you are in Eretz Yisrael, in halachic Eretz Yisrael, your field is the Galil, in the Golan, in the wherever, Judah and Samaria, Tel Aviv, where the field is, and you put those 2 grapes in salt, you're in trouble. What do you mean trouble? You have to take meiser, can't touch one with a pitchfork, That's in Eretz Yisrael, where meisers are midoraisa. Meiser is midoraisa. I'm not saying zman hazeh, not zman hazeh, but meiser is doraisa in Eretz Yisrael. B'chutz haaretz lo yikov sfisa. Chutz laaretz you also chai b'meiser midorabanan. And there, the sfisa, the dipping your grapes or your grains in salt, there, because it's the Rabbanon did not actually add the extra chumrah of saying salting is a kovea, is only the Rabbanon. In Chutz Laaretz, where you have to take meiser from your fruit and veg, it's only the Rabbanon. There, they didn't impose the extra chumrah of considering salting as kavua. And then you can add as much salt as you want to as many grapes as you want and eat gesundheit if you like grapes with salt. Everyone is asking a question one unanimously. Everyone pick up the fingers and say, I had a garden in Golders Green and I did not take my sir. I had a wheat field in Wisconsin. Am I talking nonsense? A wheat field in Wisconsin? Okay. Potatoes in Idaho, right? Hey, I had a potato field in Idaho and the rabbi did not tell me to take my sir. The answer is true because America and England are really too far away from Eretz Yisrael. But there are places in Chutzatz from Midorabonon you have to take Meiser, such as a beautiful, friendly country called Syria. Next time you visit Syria, that could be an issue if somebody, picks the fruit. Why? Yeah, like you visit Dubai, you can visit Syria soon. But if you visit Syria, the places near Israel, there could be an issue of Meiser Darabanan, even Jordan. I'm not sure Alocha Lamaisa, but when I learned these Alochas, remember parts of Jordan today could be Midrabanan. There's a mission like that for sure. It could be it applies today too. I'm not 100% sure. There are places near Israel like Jordan. Syria is a different story. Kibush Yochi, David HaMelech. I'm not going there. David HaMelech conquered Syria personally as his own individual, venture. So it's a question. It's the Rabbanon. Bekitzer, areas around Eretz Yisrael. Lebanon is 90% part of Eretz Yisrael halachically mamish midoraisa. Yeah, but Jordan, Syria, parts of them are midorabonon. You have to take meiser. I mean, ask your Rav when you go there next. I'm saying in general. But I saw you. Thank you. But when you take meiser there, salt in those areas, Rabbanon didn't put the extra, imposing and said their salt is not because it's just the Rabbanon. I would like to let Rava speak and then you, Bilshuska. Yeah. Good question. You guys have very good questions today. Is it dafka salt or any type of condiment? I don't know. I know salt and brine are choshuv, and baking also, cooking also, cooking. If you cook it, it's choshuv. If you salt it, and if you put it in brine. If you add sugar, if you add pepper, question. It's not so simple because salt preserves. Salt and brine, they preserve it for a long time. That makes it also choshuv, as opposed to maybe pepper, which I think doesn't. So I don't know. It's a good question. Yes. Yeah. Cooking preserve. Right. Very good. Yeah. So a good question. A gita kasha, and I don't know the answer. Okay. Right. Omar Rava disagrees with Abaye. Rava disagrees with Abaye. And says, no, Abaye, I disagree with you. Mi'ika midi, is there anything, the ba'oretz kov o sfisa, is there anything that in Eretz Yisrael, where Maisas the Oraisa, then sfisa, the dipping in salt, would make it kavua, would make it set, and you can't have anymore without Maiser? Midoraisa, it's because Eretz Yisrael is Midoraisa. B'chutz la'aretz lo kov o sfisa, umuta lechatchila. And in Chutz la'aretz, the dipping would be allowed lechatchila to eat as much as you want, even though dipped with salt. Eitz the Rabbanon. Rashi tells us a very, very famous, golden, important rule that everybody knows and everyone should know. Kol tokun, the Rabbanon ke'en d'oraisa tokun. When Rabbanon make a gzera, they make the gzera, make the decree fit the same conditions and the same rules like the d'oraisa. Yeah. In other words, for I just want to accentuate, point out something important which we mentioned in the past. There are two types of the Rabbanon. There are many types. There are many ways you can divide Gzeres Rabbanon. One way to divide the two Gzeres and Takonos the Rabbanon is sometimes Rabbanon wake up in the morning and they decide, it still has to be loosely connected to the Torah, but basically it's a Rabbanon invention. People don't like it when it's a Rabbanon invention. I don't try to be disrespectful, Chas v'sholom. Rabbanon have the right to decide Hanukkah. Have you heard of the festival of Hanukkah? Yeah. In other words, Rabbanon decided, Guten Morgen, now we have a thing called Hanukkah. Or now we decide to ask Muktzeh. Muktzeh is a complete Rabbanon idea. Who says you can't move around the phone or the pen? I want to. No, Rabbanon said, Mister, don't do that, lest you come to this and that and the other. That's a total Rabbanon. Another type of Rabbanon is, they took a Doraisa, ever heard of copy and paste? They took a Doraisa idea, they copy and pasted it, and extended and expanded the existing Doraisa to another time or place. And it is exactly the Rabbanon we're talking about over here. In other words, the Torah, because Baruch Hu himself established the idea that in Eretz Yisrael you should have what? Trumas and Meiseres, right? Came Rabbanon, the Kodesh Baruch Hu said only in Eretz Yisrael, not Jordan, not Syria, not even Lakewood or Manchester. Come, Rabbanon is saying in Syria and Lebanon, Syria and thing, then what? That the same idea of the Raisa should also apply over there. they extended it. Therefore, sure, we say the same rules and the same conditions and the same concepts that the Torah has in Eretz Yisrael should apply in Chutz La'aretz, because Rabbanan basically extended it. That's the idea here. Same thing with time. Says the Chazon Ish, everyone says Chazon Ish, it's really a Tosfos. Chazon Ish builds in a Tosfos, Shemitah. Shemitah B'zman Hazeh, D'oraisa D'Rabbanan, 2022, there was Shemitah. Most opinions say D'Rabbanan. So, Sofik D'Rabbanan L'Kula. Why do all these Haredim go crazy? You would say, no, we're not crazy. Even though Sofik D'Rabbanan L'Kula, but because Shemitah is really a mitzvah D'oraisa, which Chachamim, what did they do? They cut and pasted it. They expanded it to nowadays, to past Churban Abayis, therefore it retains the same halachas D'oraisa, and we don't say Sofik D'Rabbanan L'Kula, we say Sofik D'Rabbanan L'Chumra. Get what I'm saying? When Rabbanan take it D'oraisa and they just smear it over, they just continue it, then the same chumras, the same level of D'oraisa, with all the chumras and pitchivkes applies, and that therefore Rava rejects Abaye's opinion. And Rava says, I'm sorry, no, I don't accept that. It's true that Chutz La'aretz in certain places the Rabbanon, very nice, but it's really a D'oraisa the Rabbanon took and, get what I'm saying, and expanded it, and therefore the same chumrah should apply, and therefore salting should make it kavua. If you have two grapes and you're working in this really nice vineyard in Jordan or in Syria, and you work there and you have the two grapes on the plate and you salt them, you're fried. Excuse the pun. And there you can't eat it anymore, b'chlal, as long as they're two. Yes. Elo Marove, I'm hearing your question. I'm very liberal today with questions. Yes, Rabbi, I'm listening. Weiter. So what does Rava offer as an answer? So does Rava have a better answer? Yes. Elo Marove. Ben ba'aretz, ben b'chutz la'aretz. First of all, I do not differentiate. I stand by what I said. There's no difference between Eretz Yisrael, which is the Raisa, and Chutz La'aretz, which is the Rabbanon. Either salt is kovea or salt is not kovea. However, as I already alluded to you all the time, the difference is with numbers. Ada loikov sfisa. If you took, to be on the safe side, you took one grape off the vineyard of the vine, and you put it in the place on the cup or whatever, and you salted it, no problem. Go ahead and eat it. Why? It's not called goyren. Even though we're very machmi, we say two is already goyren, one is not a group. It can be extra machmi, one is never a group, it's just one. Therefore, it's not called goyren, and therefore kvius doesn't apply. Yes, melech is very kovea. Melech is kovea. So what? Kovea only applies to kovea a goyren, right? Right? Just like you can't eat paper, something, not every verb applies to every noun. You can't be kovea one grape. That's it. Tarti kova sfisa. Two grapes, then the sfisa, the salting is kovea. And soon we'll see how he's going to manage the brises that way. One brise spoke about what? About one grape. The other one spoke about two grapes, and life is beautiful. Now, however, Rob is now going to have a big party of summarizing everything together. Because if you notice this, my friend, there are two separate actions, I would say, that create keva. What are they? No. Places before. No. After I have two grapes in the plate, what stops me from eating it, nashing it? Either if I salted it, if it's two already, or if I bought it. Or from a poil that's like a buyer. Kemekach. There are 2 out of the 7 in a group is salting and purchasing. The salting is so choshuv and purchasing is so choshuv, you can't say I'm not kavua. Salting makes it kavua. In transaction makes it kavua. But providing that in the group you have 2 grapes, very nice. Now everything's going to run. Now Rob is going to just summarize it for us, really. Beautiful. Let's see. It's going to be very easy. Chotzatz. What's chotzatz? There was a personal agreement between the employer and the employee, which makes him like a purchaser. It's not time a bonus from the Torah. It's a personal agreement. You work for me, therefore you will get fruit. That's called buying. So chotzatz, ben sofas, uben loy sofas, regardless to whether he added salt or not. I don't need salt. The mere fact is the buyer makes it kavua. Achas, is he allowed to eat one by one? Not have 2 on the. Can I have 1 on the plate? One, only 1 every time? Oichel, of course, yes. It's not goyren. Shtaim, lo yoichal. If I have 2 on the plate, can't eat. If it's 1 by 1, after there were 2 on the plate, can't eat them. Very nice, because it's kavua. Now, loy kotzatz veloy sofas. The other combination, it's all nice combination. It's like a chart. Loy kotzatz veloy sofas, meaning he's not a purchaser and he did not add salt. Oichel shtaim. You can eat 2. Yeah, you can have 2. I think even more. I'm pretty sure even more. You can have 20. Yeah, why? Because it's true. There's goyre, there's no kvius. Nothing was kovea. I'm not a purchaser. No salting, no Shabbos, no kvisha, no cooking, no baking, no nothing. Then no problem. I'll eat 2 by 2 together too, or even more. So fast. Now, what about, let's say, did not purchase it? He's a regular worker or stam a friend, stam somebody eating, and he salted them. Oh, here we explain the difference between the two brises. Achas achas oichel, and that is what the second brisa. In other words, I was sofes, which is kavua. So what is kavua? 1. If every time I have only 1 grape on the plate, that's not called goyren. So kvius, it's not susceptible to kvius. I can eat. Shtaim lo yoichal. Uh-oh, and that's the first brisa. The first brisa that says don't put it in salt, nothing to do with balabais. Shtaim lo yoichal means what? If I salted it and it's 2 on the plate, 2 tomatoes on the plate, 2 grapes on the plate, 2 avocados on the plate, and I salt them, fried. It's 2, it's goyren, and you added salt, which means what? It's now an act of kvius, can't eat them. The afagav the not me balabais. Even though he has permission of balabais, don't confuse the issues. Ma'akesha, balabais is not a Kadosh Baruch Hu. He's allowed mitzad what? Reshus me balabais. He's allowed to eat the salt with salt, even though salt would maybe usher to eat together with the thing mitzad the addition of balabais. Fine, but mitzad the meiser you're chayiv, which means you're allowed to eat it mitzad balabais. Take meiser, take trumas, take meiser, give it to Mr. Cohen or Mr. Kaplan, and then you can eat mitzad balabais. But meiser is required. Why? The eat bilahu lemeiser, because they're tovu lemeiser. The kovos fisa. The Gemara basically said, or told you all the time, they were nitbal lemeiser, which means nitbal doesn't mean to dip, by the way. Litbol is to dip in Hebrew. Here means mitzad tevel, which means it became tevel once it's 2 at least, and it's salted, or it's bought, it's called tevel. It requires meiser, yeah. The kovas fisa in the salting made it kavua. Frag the Gemara now, the final crescendo, vitarti the kovas fisa minolan. You know, if I salted only 2 grapes or 2 grains, 2 only, how do you know that's called goyren? How do you know that only 2 is considered to be a group that becomes sometimes kavua? It's a posuk, it's an asmachta, it's a posuk here in the Novi. Ki kibitzem, I don't remember exactly how to read them. It says here, I'm reading inside, ki kibitzam ki omir goyrno. Ki kibitzam, you gather them, mikabetz, kibitz, you gather them like an amir. Amir is like the grains. Gorna, that's a goyren. What do you mean together? 2. 2 people is also gathering. Gathering does mean 100,000 people in MetLife. Gathering can be 2 people. Yeah, lekabetz means 2. 2 is already kibbutz. Kibbutz means what? 2. Miut rabim shtaim. I gathered together with you. One and one is 2. And already that's called goyren. And therefore, once it's kavua, either by salting or by purchasing. Okay. Now we're completely back to the issue of loy tachsam shol b'dishoy. Yeah, we're entering the next Amud, and now the issue is the Isser Torah. There's a provision in the Torah: do not muzzle. Yeah, do not stop an ox while it's threshing. Yeah, okay. And now we're going to see details of those halachas. Of course, Meister will still kick in. They're very interconnected. But for now, we're only talking about the prohibition. The story is as follows. Needs a lot of explanation about pay. It's very easy. Just know the Metzias. Is like this. Those porous, those cows are threshing. So far, so good. What's threshing? What's a strange word? It's called dash. Basically, they're stepping with like a board, with like a wooden board behind them, and there's a person standing there also. The animal and the person working together. Basically, you run over all the grains, right? And then what happens is that the grains get disconnected and shooting them out of the stalk, yeah, disconnecting from the stalk, and also it gets them out of the chef. The chita has three there's chef and 2 others. There are 3 layers of klipa. How do you say of what? No. There are 3 covers. There are 3 covers to the chita. The chef and the 2 other names. Bran and another one. Right. The kids are the main one. The chita gets out of the klipa, yeah, by disha. Disha means that the grain gets out of the husk, the husk, the husk. There's a husk. There's two others, right, of the main one. The kids are now. This guy, look what he did. This person over here in the story, he is not. This you should remember. Is not intending on making those grains of wheat into bread. His fantasy at the end of the day, his startup is not bread. No, he's not trying not to compete with the angel. What is he going to do? He wants to use them as toasted grains. Yeah, like a khatif, like a snack. So what did he do? He put them in the oven already before they were chefed, before they were threshed. Yeah, with the klipa, he put them in the oven. Right now, when the cows are basically taking the grain out of the husk, it's ready to eat. It's ready to eat. That's what's going to sell them. That's what's going to eat them. Which means at this point, the disha is gmar melocha. Usually, disha is very far from gmar melocha, right? Disha means what? It's just getting off the first, the husk. We'll still have to do boirer and zoirer and merakid and toichet, many other things. Yeah. Here, he changed around the order and also is not going to make bread out of it. So basically, it's been already roasted nicely. Tastes and smells very nice. All we have to do is for the cows to make sure that it's out of the husk and it's ready to eat. It's already Gemar Melocha. That's it. Now his kids are going to enjoy it for a snack in school. So now, that disha, which is Gemar Melocha, Poras Merachos Betvua, and another one, Daf Tzadi Amud Aleph, the Doshois Betruma Umaiser. Let's say a person already took Truma or Meiser. Now, guys, you'll be surprised. Let's say a person was Mafrish Trumas and Meisers. He took some Truma, 1 out of 40, 50, 60. He took Meiser, let's say Meiser Sheni, 10 out of 100. You know when he did that? Before it was ready. It was all messy, all inside the chaff, inside the husk, inside everything. And he took Meiser too early. Is the Meiser a good Meiser? Yes. Even though he changed the order, it's not L'chatchila. He didn't do it the right way. But the Eved, the Torah says, it's Marum is actually Parshas Koirach, not which we read recently, that really, if you change the order and you took the Meiser and the Trumas Meiser and everything when he was still all messy and clumsy, and then you took it out, yeah, and then you give it to the Kohen, it's okay. Oh, so now, yeah, Kavana, of course you had to Kavana. Could be, yeah, but you need a posuk for that. So now, what's the cow threshing? That he has two cows. One of them threshes the choil, the things that he and his family are going to eat, and one cow is threshing those trumas u'maisres that are going only for the kohen or for the meiser sheni in Yerushalayim. The cow that is now threshing the trumas and maisres grains, eina over mishum bal tachsoim. Wow, that cow, you're lechatchila meikar adin, you're allowed to muzzle and gang the mouth of the animal that is threshing what? There are two cases. One case, it's thresh, it's now dash what? It's dash those grains that are already nice and toasted and roasted. And all you do now, the animal is, as the animal's threshing them, they're ready to eat. Why is it not allowed? We said why. Daish is only lo nigma melachtoi. But if it's gmar melachtoi, just like a human being, an animal is not allowed to eat something at the very, very end of the process. If the end result after that act of the cow, the item is ready to eat, they're just going to take a bunch and make a brocha bar pri hadoma and eat. They eat it like that, like a snack, like bizli bamba. It's ready to eat. There's nothing else that's going to happen to it better and bigger. That's why the cow is not allowed to eat, because we said a cow and human being are only allowed to eat not at the very last stage, right? Like a person when he's dead, lisha, a person who needs the dough, not allowed to eat from the dough. No, why? Because it's already the last stage, the very last stage. What about trumas and maisros? Why can't the animal eat from what? From those grains that are set aside, dedicated to trumas and maisros? And note. Pshia, that was nice and quick. It's not so simple. It's Mochokas Rashi Toisves. Like it, very nice. Says Rashi a different reason. Rashi says the reason is because it's nicht normal. It's not normal, as we said, to take Trumas U'Maisros from something that's not yet nicely done in Memurach, like we learned. And the Torah only spoke about regular Daish, not about Daish that's done in a crazy way. Taisa says like you. Taisa says like you, and Taisa says that if it's a Israel, if it's a regular guy like you and me, then it's not exactly stealing because it says daish, yeah, dishoy. Lo tachsam sho, but dishoy means it's threshing. It's threshing and not a coin's threshing. If something belongs to the coin, yeah, and I thresh on it and I let the animal eat, I'm like letting the animal eat from the coin. What about if it's a coin? If the person is the coin himself and he's the one who's entitled to have his own trumas u'maisres, even then says Tosfos, the coin is only allowed to eat his animal fodder of truma u'maisres. But daish of grains is meant for human beings. You're not supposed to feed your animal, even if you're a coin, the grains that are suitable for human beings. So at the end of the day, right? Okay. In other words, you know, animals are chai b'maiser. Don't laugh. That's what Pinchas ben Yoy, right? In other words, animals of a kohen, they should only eat from something which Meiser was taken. If it's animal fodder, that's b'di'evet good for people, called karshinin. Karshinin are like clique or something like that. That's between animal fodder and human being food. Those you're supposed to take Meiser and feed the animal. Grains, you're not supposed to eat your animals with grains of truma. Truma is holy and it's meant for human consumption. It's bread, it's wheat, barley. Therefore, only human beings should eat, and that's the answer. So that's your direction. Give me 1 second, and then I'll listen to you. Aval, before you thresh animal, if you want to go home now and actually muzzle the animal, if it's going to eat what, if it's threshing what, either roasted stuff or trumas, don't do that at home. Stop. Aval mipnei maris sa'ain. It's maris sa'ain. You know, Mr. Morris. Maris sa'ain is a achneyente. People would say, "Oh, look at this guy, so frum, with payas and beard, and he's muzzling his animal." No shidduch for his children. Aval mipnei marisa ain maybe bul me'oiso. You take a bunch of what? Bul is like a fistful, like a bunch of. Let's say she's threshing rye. Take some rye, yeah, me'oiso of that type of rye. The toila la betraskal in shabafia. Create like a bag, like a doggy bag, like a bag, and put it in its mouth. So while it's threshing, it can eat from its own bag. You know what I'm saying? So it doesn't eat from the floor like the animal should originally do, midoraisa. So people don't talk and don't get the wrong idea or learn from you to do the wrong thing. Have like another from another bunch. Take it from home. Take it from your cereal box. Yeah. Take from there and give it to it in its own little doggy bag next to the mouth. It's rascal, so people don't get the wrong idea. Oh, one more. Reb Shimon ben Yochai. No, Reb Shimon ben Yochai has another solution for marisain, and he says maybe kalshinim betoilolo. Don't give the animal to eat from the food that the animal is actually working on. Yeah, shakalshinim, but give it karshinim. Karshinim, I think, are like leeks. What's karshinim in our scrollies? Karshinim is animal fodder. It's something human beings also eat. B'diavad. Vetch. 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 It's a vetch. So VETCH. Vetch, of course. What do you mean? It's my favorite food. So the vetch is something very normal for animals. So give it vetch karshinim to eat, v'toilolo, and hang them by its mouth. Shakarshinim yofas laminakol. For the animal, the favorite animal food is karshinim out of all vegetables. So that's what you should give your animal, and not the rye, even though it's not threshing rye. You know, the Tanakama is more concerned about marisain. People say, hey, the animal's threshing rye. You know, the representative from the RCCPA, from the animals' rights, is going to say, you're not letting your animal eat. It's threatening the rye, and you're not letting it eat rye. Says Tanakama, let it eat rye or barley or wheat, whatever it's not working on. Rav Shimon ben Yochai says, no, give it its favorite food. The animal likes to eat karshini more than likes wheat and barley. So give it karshini. There's more to it. Anyway, the question is coming tomorrow. We're left in suspense. Soon, tomorrow, Metzia Hashem, we're going to see a contradiction. See, Bryce is saying just the other way around, and we'll manage it. Be'ez Hashem, thank you for your patience. What is your question? Have a great day to everybody in YouTube. For any time. And everybody else that listens to us, thank you very much. Yeah, shkoyach. Thank you for your questions.